This is one of the few times where the guards are probably better than the tackles. We'll see how it actually pans out, though. We shall see. Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. Quentin Nelson, obviously the big name among the guards, but you can also make the argument that Will Hernandez is better than any tackle in this class. You could also make the argument that Isaiah Wynn is better than any tackle in this class as well. Brendan Albert is here. I think I said your name already, but I'll say it again. Double twice is nice. So how's it going, man? Do you agree with my statement? Are the guards better than the tackles?
Honestly, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I would say Quentin Nelson's always the best offensive lineman. And then the debate just becomes, do you like McGlinchey more than Isaiah Wynn or Will Hernandez? I don't think there's a huge argument there. I mean, I'm in disagreement because I think people might think this or that, but I don't think anyone's really going to adamantly fight over it. I think those three guys are pretty close, Adrian. So, yeah, I would probably say the top three guards are probably better than the top tackle, but I don't think there's a huge discrepancy between 2 and 3 offensive guards versus McGlinchey at right tackle.
All right, so the next question I want to get into, but before we get into our rankings. So it seems like the tackle spot has been so hit or miss the last, say, 5 years. And it used to be a position that, like, if you took a tackle in the top 5, you knew that you were getting a mainstay for a decade. It's not like that anymore. I mean, Luke Jokel, perfect example. Eric Fisher. Eric Flowers was a top 10 pick, and you can make the argument that he's the worst tackle in football. You could also make the same argument for Greg Robinson. He was number 2 overall. So why are these tackles busting?
It's a great question, Adrian. I think, one thing that we have to talk about with the offensive linemen is the schemes are so unique. You look at what Greg Robinson was coming out of in Auburn, a lot of his stuff was unblocking the defensive end, just being an athlete and going up and getting a linebacker. So he wasn't really a true anchor at the left tackle position. He was more of an athlete playing left tackle, which doesn't always translate to the NFL. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors in there, Adrian, but you're 100% right. I'll look at it like this. Couple of years ago, we remember the Redskins took, was it Sheriff from Iowa?
Yeah,
Brandon Sheriff, and everyone was like, ooh, that's really high for our guard. Well, you know what? He's pretty damn good, and I think this is going to be a similar situation when people say Quentin Nelson is going to be drafted high. People are going to say, oh, well, he's a guard, but he's a damn good offensive lineman. I think when it comes to the offensive line, let's keep it simple. Is he good? Then he's valuable. I don't think we have to put tackles more than guards or guards more than centers. I think you just have to say if he's a good offensive lineman, he's a good offensive lineman. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah, and with the way the game is played now, I mean, there's so many great interior pass rushers. Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, you can go down the list. So guards are becoming more and more valuable each and every season.
Big time, Adrian, and especially on third down, the guy who maybe look at Bennett, when he was in Seattle, he would line up at left or right defensive end, first and second down, third down, he's coming inside. Fletcher Cox is another guy. He can kick outside. He can come inside. You're 100% right, Adrian. We're seeing that versatility with the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman, so you need to have more and more pressure inside to really hold up and keep your legs of your quarterback clean.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into our top 5 right now. And I haven't let Brendan know what my top 5 is. I'm going to be all over the place. So I don't think it's that great of a tackle class. So I'm looking at potential in a lot of ways as not necessarily more important than pure talent, but I think the potential here is important. And that's why I have this surprise at number 1. All right, so my number 1 tackle is Brian O'Neill out of Pittsburgh. And here's why I say this. All right, so when I watched Brian O'Neill, I couldn't help but see Lane Johnson when I saw him play. And you even if you look at what he did in high school, he was a receiver that became a tight end, and then all of a sudden he's becoming a tackle at Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of room for growth. Not only his potential, but also his body. So when you watch him on tape, there's times where he gets completely overwhelmed with the bull rush. And this happened against Bradley Chubb from what I watched. But he can add 20 more pounds to his frame. He's 6'6", 295-ish. So 295 isn't that big for 6'6". But I think there's, he can add that weight. So when I watch him, man, probably the best moving tackle in the class. And the way that he can get on the perimeter, get to the second level, I like what I saw. And I think he's got really good foot quickness, so he's good at mirroring. Speed rushers, and speed rushing is becoming something that's become more and more prevalent in the NFL game. So when I look at the potential in Brian O'Neill, I think he could be the best tackle in this class. And as you might guess, I'm not a McGlinchey fan. So my take on McGlinchey is going to be different than everybody else. So he's my number one.
As far as an athlete there, Adrian, I buy what you're selling. I mean, you're 100% right. That versatility of what different positions he's played. And you know what? For a while there, the couple guys on ESPN had him as the number one tackle taken too. So you're not completely far off. My knock I have on him, I think he's just a zone tackle. I don't think he's ever going to be able to play in a true power offense because he's such a finesse guy. But you're also right there, Adrian. He's a guy who's not a lifelong offensive lineman. So you're right. If I'm betting on, upside, sure. I think that makes a ton of sense. That's also what I said about DJ Shark. I said his upside is really high. But I think you would agree with me that O'Neill's not going to be the first tackle taken, right?
Oh, definitely not. He's probably not going 3 or 4. Maybe
right. So really, what you're saying is where you would buy him, the value is going to be so freaking good. So from what you're saying there, Adrian, I see your point. I disagree with it. I don't have him in my top 5. I don't think you can only be a zone-based offensive lineman to be a high early pick or a top 5 pick. But to your credit, you're also saying I have him going in the 3rd round. So I see your point.
Yep. So, you look at that Lane Johnson comparison, and that's pretty much what he is in the NFL. Like, he's that zone guy playing it in Philadelphia, able to move on the 2nd level. So the thing is, I'm curious to see if he plays right tackle in the NFL because you kind of run more off the right side. You can kind of pull a little bit more. So I that's where I see O'Neill. And the other reason why I'm at number 1, I don't think it's a great tackle class. So, again, it's like I'm putting potential at number 1 and that room for growth, and I think he can add strength. So I'm going out of the box with my number 1 guy.
I love it, dude. I love the fact that we're going out of the box. That's what I did at the receivers situation. I said the exact same thing as you did with the tackles. Not elite. So give me the upside with my guy, my number 1. I'm buying that, okay? Now, for me, my number 1, I'm going Mike McGlinchey, right tackle here and from Notre Dame. He plays left tackle Notre Dame. He's a right tackle all day long in the NFL. You put on the Georgia tape, you put on the Miami tape, it is so noticeable that he struggles with speed. Yep. But as far as being an anchor and being a power offensive tackle, I think he's a good fit. I don't think he's necessarily the same level as Taylor Lewan was coming out of Michigan, but it's very similar type of game. More of a mauler, physical type guy than the finesse athlete. So I think he probably is Conklin was coming out of Michigan State, was very similar. More of the physical right tackle, which I think is better his cup of tea. He's not that, elite left tackle, but I agree with what you said there, Adrian. This is not a great tackle class. I would take my top 3 tackles all over last year's tackles, but that still doesn't mean this is a good offensive tackle class.
Yeah, and I like the Lewan comparison in terms of the power and the strength. I like that, and the thing with him is McGlinchey and Notre Dame, they play a lot of good competition. We kind of talked about this pre-show. So it's like some of the guys that we're going to evaluate, they never get to play the competition that Notre Dame plays. So it's like you knock McGlinchey for what he did against good competition, but then it's like you're not going to knock a guy who never played good competition either. It's kind of hypocritical to say.
I'm with you 100%. It's like, we would love to judge players with an even playing field. Yeah. But obviously we know when you play Notre Dame, you're going to play probably 3 teams that are going to be ranked in the top 10 by the end of the season. So you're 100% right there, Adrian. So I have McGlinchey as my 1. I like the fact that you're different and have O'Neill as your 1. So who's your 2? Is it McGlinchey?
No, I'm going McGlinchey's not my number. My number 2 is your boy, Tyrell Crosby.
That's right.
So you talked about him, and then I watched the tape. I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying. So whenever he drops that anchor, man, he's a brick wall. You're not getting past him. He handles power really well. And he's a guy that's pretty big boy, but he's got quick feet for a guy his size. So again, like talking about that speed rush thing, he's got the quick feet and his quick slide to be able to handle the speed rush. The one thing that I did see on tape is some inside moves. You can kind of beat him across the face. Saw that a little bit. But in terms of his feet and his power, I think he has it. And you look at kind of the things that Oregon likes to do, some of the gimmick stuff, some of the jet sweep action. So with him, he's asked to get on the 2nd level and pull, and he can do it. So give me Crosby, man. He's my number 2.
I love it. He's my 2 guy too. Tyrell Crosby was my favorite tackle in this class. I think McGlinchey goes ahead of him. but I love Crosby. The thing I like most about Crosby coming here out of Oregon, despite the fact that he's a former Vegas guy too. So, now that I'm paying Vegas taxes, I feel like I'm like financially liable to shout them out every time I get a chance. So he's a Vegas guy, so I appreciate that. But the cool thing about him has played left tackle and right tackle in a good conference. This is a Power 5 conference. No, it's not the SEC where you're getting loaded, defensive end guys coming at you every day. And I think that's a fair knock on him, but he's a stud in pass pro. He's just an absolute stud. The knock on him is missed a lot of games this last season, didn't have the opportunity to really get as much game tape as you would want to see on him, was in and out of the lineup. So again, offensive lineman, best ability is your availability. And I can understand why teams would knock him, but man, I'm a huge fan of him. It would not surprise me, Adrian, to see he be the best tackle in this class a couple years down the line. I think he probably goes, though, early second, mid-second range.
Now, it's like we talked about McGlinchey and him facing really stellar competition. With Crosby, you don't really see him facing a lot of elite edge rushers in the Pac-12, and, that's the kind of thing. That's why his tape probably looks so damn good, because he didn't face anybody that was elite.
That's totally fair, too. Like, if you want to make that argument, I'll buy that. I mean, aside from, USC, look, you're not getting many guys from Arizona, Arizona State, Washington State, Oregon who are going to the NFL, and that's half your schedule right there. So I'll buy that. That I will buy, but at the same time, it's hard for me to fault a player for what the ADs do or don't schedule. So for me, I'm just saying, did you dominate your matchup like you're supposed to? And for Crosby, his film says yes.
Yeah. All right, now McGlinchey is where I have it number 3. So I didn't have him too far. I'm not going to take him out of the top 5. That's ridiculous. So I will slot him at number 3. I'll play it safe. I'm not high on McGlinchey, but again, it goes back to what I saw on tape against the really good competition and that Georgia game, man. I was just like, wow. Like anytime you try to speed rush him, he's getting by you. And the fourth quarter, I think he allowed a strip sack. So I think he's going to, not handle speed well at the NFL. But at right tackle, I kind of like your point there, kind of be that physical guy in the run game. That's where you can be successful.
I buy that. I think everything you just said there is completely fair. Now, my 3 guys, Connor Williams from Texas. He was a guy, came into the year, was supposed to be a top 10 pick, and had a shit year. That's saying it nicely. Yeah. You put on the Maryland tape, and again, it's Maryland. It's not Miami. It's not Georgia. It's Maryland. With all due respect, they're in a Power 5 conference, but they're nowhere near a Power 5 team, and he struggled heavily. His did not have a great season. The thing is, if I put on Connor Williams' 2016 tape, I'm like, yeah, I can see why this dude's a top 10 pick. The other awesome thing about him, he's only 20 years old. So as far as a player you're getting, upside is through the roof here. Very, very athletic, good in the be able to move. He'll probably be the second offensive tackle taken is my estimate, probably in the first round, mid round, and first. But he's my 3 guy. I would rather have Crosby over him personally.
Yeah, I think Connor Williams is going to be the second guy taken as well at tackle behind McGlinchey, and he is my number 4. So that's where I have him slotted. And we did a film study on him, and that Maryland tape, man, just filled with just awfulness.
Yeah.
So if you watch that tape and basically make your opinion on him based on one game, you're not going to think highly of him. But there's some other games where he put together some solid tape, and that's a good point about him being 20 years old. He's a third-year junior, and he's still got a lot of room to grow. There are some scouts who believe he's going to be a guard in the NFL. They don't think he has the long arms to be a successful tackle. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I think that's a very possible situation, and he's very, very athletic. The question that I have of going to guard, he's certainly athletic enough. That's not a question for me. The question I would have is he mean enough? Because when you go to guard, you have to be just a nasty SOB. And that's something maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I personally would rather have a mean and athletic left tackle than an over-athletic guard. So to me, I'd rather have him at tackle and develop him there. But if he moves to right guard, I'd be okay with that too.
Okay. All right, so my number 5 is a little bit out of the box as well. I'm going to see if I can pronounce his name. Chakuma Okorafor from Western Michigan. So he's 6'6", 330. Now, the level of competition, not really high, but I did pop in his Michigan State tape, and he was pretty impressive in that game. So in terms of his pass protection skills, he's up there. In run game, I'd like to see him get that mean streak that you just talked about, because he'll like hit you, but he kind of slaps you. I want to see him take the guy to the ground. You know, I want to see that push. I want to see that physicality. But in terms of his pass protection skills, for a guy that's 6'6", 330, he can move for a guy his size. He's got some foot quickness to him. He can mirror you. So I like him. And, you know, there's other guys that I picked over him in the top 5 that you're like, okay, Colton Miller, a lot of people like. Orlando Brown, after that combine, he's off my board. He's off my board. If you can't get yourself prepared for the combine, how am I supposed to think that you have this love and passion for the game once you actually get paid?
I'm with you, Adrian. Yeah.
So he's off my board. He's not in my top 5.
I'm with you. So I don't have Orlando Brown in my top 5 either. The big reason I have him, I've seen guys go to the combine, not ready. I've worked with guys when I was at IMG that I know mentally weren't ready and physically weren't ready for the combine. I get that. Like, I've seen that before. But I've never seen someone at the combine be yelled at for loafing like Orlando Brown was. That just blew me away. That one I was just like, I'm good, dude. I'm good. I don't want to see you taken until at least the 5th round. I understand all the upside, and your dad was an all-pro and all that, but you're loafing at a job interview. I'm straight. I'm good. So my 4 guy is Colton Miller. Now, Miller's probably going to be the 3rd tackle taken, probably in the end of the 1st round, because of athletic upside. Has played both tackles since he was a freshman too at UCLA. So he has played high athletic competition. Athleticism certainly is there, certainly has the room for growth. But my issue I have with him is he's 6'9", and he doesn't get low. He doesn't have good hip, knee, and ankle flexibility. So guys who are able to dip and rip get right underneath him every single time. And as a tackle, if a guy's getting underneath you, there's no outside help for you. So I'm not a huge fan of him. I personally would rather a lot of other tackles ahead of him, but I think he ultimately is my 4th guy on my board because I will admit his upside is very, very tantalizing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I skipped you. So I think I revealed my 4 and 5 in the same breath. I was so excited to say Okorafor's name, Chakuma, that I went twice. So I apologize for that. So I'll let you go and say your 5 now.
Yeah, so my 5 guy is Christian from Louisville, and this guy is all about pass protection. This is definitely his cup of tea. Now, he's one of those guys, though, that exactly talk about the mean streak. I'm not going to say he's a killer out there. I wouldn't say he's a guy who's looking to finish every block and bury people, but pass protection, he's a very, very fluid athlete. So he'd probably be my 5 guy, but I'll be honest with you, Adrian, the guy I love is Tyrell Crosby. He's the guy I would stand on the table for in this draft. But honestly, at tackle, this is not a great tackle year. So if you're a team looking for a tackle, I don't love anything for you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, that goes back to, why I have some guys rated so high. So Crosby is a guy that isn't like top 5 for a lot of scouts. I wonder why that is. I don't know.
Well, I think the big reason that I would have him a little bit lower. How about 17 on the bench press?
Yeah, and for a guy that size, that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: I'll buy the fact that long arms, it really does affect you in the bench. If you're not someone who's a super weightlifting type of person, bench press really does hurt guys who are long arms. So I will give that. But here's the difference: McGlinchey's 3 inches taller. His arms are going to be longer too. Puts up 7 more. Christian, that 17, that's very, very light. And overall, as an athlete, I mean, as I'm looking kind of here across the board, it's pretty lackluster. As you look at everything across, nothing really pops and wows you. Colton Miller is the athlete of all of them. I mean, you look at his combine times, again, you're not going to be running any type of tackle passes anytime soon to see what Colton Miller's 40-yard dash time is in an NFL game. But as far as an athlete, you can certainly see how Colton Miller has that athletic ability.
You know who might be running some tackle pass routes? That's O'Neal, because they did some of that at Pittsburgh.
Well, when you get a guy who's a former receiver and tight end, I can understand that too.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to look up O'Neal. I'm curious what his combine numbers were because looking at that. So I'm loading this page up. I don't know if it's going to have it.
And as
See,
Adrian kind of pulls that up, guys, let me
yeah,
kind of just tell everyone. So this is my top five right here in column A. That's just my personal opinion. Who are the five guys I like the most? But just because the way you like them doesn't mean what's actually going to get drafted. I mean, listen to as
yeah.
many mock drafts as you can, and that gets you a better idea because the range, as I talked about, Connor's going to go before Crosby. Miller's going to go before Crosby too. And I think you'll probably have 3 tackles taken in the draft because tackle's a position of need. Just like quarterbacks, you're probably going to definitely have 5. You might have 6 quarterbacks in the first round. Even if guys like Lamar Jackson, Mason Rudolph are maybe more second-round talents, the demand says we need more of them earlier.
All right, so Brian O'Neal's numbers, 482 in the 40, 22 bench press. And I'm seeing he weighed in at 305. I don't know if this is what he weighed in at, but I saw 295 as his listed weight. So clearly he's gained some weight from the end of the season till now. 34 and 1/8 inch arms. So there you go. Those are his numbers. And you talked about guys getting drafted. I mean, my top 2 guys, you might see 5 tackles drafted before these 2.
Yeah, totally fair. And that's why, what we give you guys is what we like. We're probably going to be wrong. It's fine.
Nah, we're not wrong.
I might be wrong. Adrian's never wrong. I might be wrong. But if and when I'm wrong, I'm going to own it. But this is just my personal opinion. So, like I said, I like Crosby a lot. He's my guy I would go to bat for. But I think McGlinchey, he's just very, very solid.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's solid, and that's why I don't have him as the top guy. I think that's like the best description of him.
I think the thing, Adrian, you're really saying is you're thinking McGlinchey might be maxed out, and he's maxed out maybe as a good starting right tackle, but maybe a never all-pro kind of guy. I think that's probably a fair thought.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. So it's not like I don't hate him, but there are guys that I like who might have more potential. So there you go. All right, moving on to – all right, so here's what we're going to do. We're doing interior linemen now. So that means guards and centers. And in my personal opinion, there are 3 guards who I'd rather take than a tackle, and there's even a center that I'd rather take than the top tackle, who, in my opinion, is Brian O'Neal. So guards and centers is crazy because this is a really good class for guards. I would assume that at number 1 we both have Quentin Nelson.
Yes, as long as there's a pulse in anyone's brain, Quentin Nelson should be the first interior guy. He's a mean SOB. Look, He is everything that Martin is in Dallas, but he's 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah, he's stronger. He's beast.
He's exactly what you want. So, honestly, I think him and Saquon are the 2 cleanest prospects out there. If you're like, hey, we're panicking, who do we take? Take one of those 2 guys. They're going to be just fine for your offensive line and your running back core moving forward.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Where do you rank him? Because in my opinion, he's the second best player in the class.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I might say he's the best player in the class, and I might say that because I think his career would be longer than a running back's. So I might say he's the cleanest. But again, it's an offensive guard, not an offensive tackle, so it gets devalued a little bit. I would be shocked if he's there past 8. I think anything past 8 would be like there's something off the field or he failed a medical situation. So I don't see any way he's there past 8.
Is there any way he can be a bust? And the reason why I asked that is because I remember when there were 2 guards taken in the top 10 and they both busted, Jonathan Cooper and Chance Warmack. So any chance that he busts?
There's always a chance, right? Never say never situation goes to a bad offensive line. Medically, those type of things are obviously completely unheard of. I would say medical would probably be the highest odds of him busting. What would be the root? But I would say his bust percentage is very, very low.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I definitely would. All right, so number 2. My number 2 is a guard who played for a winless football team of UTEP. and that's Will Hernandez. And you know who he reminds me of? I remember when I watched tape of Mike Iupati back in the day.
Ooh, I like that one. Yeah.
He played for Idaho.
Idaho, yeah.
Idaho. And Idaho now, I believe, plays in the FCS because they were in Division One, but now in their Division Two. And you look at that situation, you're like, man, like who did Mike Iupati play? And I remember thinking that to myself because he was so dominant on tape. But I'm like, man, is he actually going to translate to the NFL? And he did. Exceptional run blocker. And I kind of see the same kind of deal with Hernandez. So a guy that's, you know, really, really athletic for a guy that's like 340, 350, whatever he is. And I like Will Hernandez. That's my number 2. I think you're going to go a little bit different, though, at number 2.
I am. I'm going Isaiah Wynn from Georgia, and it's by the thinnest of margins between these two guys. The reason I have Isaiah Wynn over him is Isaiah Wynn has a tackle experience, and I think in a pinch I could move Isaiah Wynn to tackle. Maybe not left, more likely right. Yep. But I also think Isaiah Wynn could be a guy who could play center too. He's just an absolute load, and to me personally, if it's splitting hairs, I have one guy who played in the SEC, and I have one guy who played in Conference USA. Give me the SEC player all day long in those splitting hair situations. I'm cool. If Will Hernandez goes before Isaiah Wynn, I'm fine with that. But I'm a little bit splitting hair, and I like the fact that Isaiah Wynn has that tackle experience too.
Yeah. You know what it did for me? Did it for me with Will Hernandez when you watch his Oklahoma tape. Because Oklahoma, I mean, that's a legit FBS team. So while Hernandez played the Middle Tennessee States of the world and all these Conference USA teams, North Texas, a lot of teams that used to be in the Sun Belt but are now in Conference USA, okay, yeah, he doesn't play anybody. But you watch the Oklahoma tape, and he's doing it in that game too. And the opposing defensive tackle wanted to get in a fight with him because he was getting his ass beaten so bad, if you remember the tape, the film room that we did on him. So Will Hernandez is my 2, and Isaiah Wynn is my number 3. And I'm curious because maybe you see a situation that you should know of because you played in the NFL. Brendan Albert, drafted as a guard, played tackle in the NFL.
Yes, I had a very flourishing career there with the Kansas City Chiefs as well as the Miami Dolphins towards the end. So, yeah, it was a very fortunate opportunity for me. So I have my third guy is Will Hernandez, another Vegas guy. So I got to give another shout out to 2 Vegas guys on the same show, which is pretty cool. But you want to talk about a dude who's just a throwback guard, cowboy collar, short jerseys, just wants to get physical with you. And honestly, like, he's that guy, if you went to a nightclub on a Thursday night, you could probably see him working as the bouncer. Yeah. Like, that it absolutely is that dude too. And you know what? The thing I love most about him, doesn't give a shit about what's happening away from the ball. He just wants to win his block. That clip that we have, Adrian, is one of my favorites because the ball's like 30 yards away from him. And he's still just trying to mash this Oklahoma guy into the ground. And this Oklahoma guy is like, okay, relax. And he's like, nope, I'm looking to finish you. I'm looking to bury you right now. So Will Hernandez, he is a guard all day long. Shorter arms would ever stop him from really moving the tackle, which is why I would have Wynn ahead of him. But 348 and is tough as you know what inside. Mm-hmm. Love it. I agree with you, Adrian. I think that all 3 of these guards are big time players. I think all 3 of these guards potentially could be all pros one day, but I still think McGlinchey is going to go before Wynn and before we get to Will Hernandez, just because he can tackle. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely. All right, so number 4 is a center from Ohio State. That's Billy Price. And, you know, you look at that situation. They just went from Pat Eflin, who did a great job in his first season with Minnesota. They go with Billy Price. I believe Billy Price played guard the year before. So he goes from guard to center. And you look at a really physical, strong center in Billy Price. So he's my number 4 guy.
Yeah, he's my 4 guy too. The unfortunate thing is he's had a pec injury that really kind of hurt him from really doing a lot of stuff at the combine. Yeah. And I think he probably is the second center taken, but I would take him first because he's an anchor. I mean, he's an anchor. He's physical. He's a very, very great point of contact guy. Could probably even play some guard, but I think he's just a stud at center. But talk about Ohio State being like, okay, we have our first string guy is now being the starting center for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, our second string our center is probably also going to go to the NFL the very next year in the first round, second round situation.
Yep. All right, so number 5 is James Daniels, the center from Iowa. And, he's basically like the complete opposite of Price. He's more of a mover guy that's going to get on the second level. So he's more finesse than power, but he's my number 5.
I'm with you. Yeah, he's my 5 guy as well. For everything you just talked about there, Adrian, he's my 5 guy because I think he's the finesse. I think he's the zone-based guy, and I don't think he's ever going to really be able to be a true power guy. Even when I'm watching him get to the second level, he's not really giving any of those hits that you watch the defender's head snap back and really bury someone. He's more of a finesse athlete, does a great job of getting his feet and his body in front of him, but he's not the power banger that Billy Price is. So I would rather that physical power banger inside of Billy Price than James Daniels. But the fact that James Daniels is really hitting on all cylinders right now, had a really good combine, good pro day, very good athlete, he's probably going to get drafted ahead of Billy Price. But I think he's someone who's going to be stuck as a zone-based offensive lineman.
All right, so I see your pros and your cons for Quentin Nelson. What do you mean by head butter?
He's a little bit of a head butter in that a lot of times when you kind of watch Quentin Nelson engage, the first thing that hits the defender is his forehead, not necessarily his hands. Now, this is a concern for 2 reasons. One, the obvious one, you're worried about concussions, right? You're worried about long-term concussions and things like that. So I talked about one of the ways he could bust his injuries, concussions. He could self-concuss himself.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind now, guys, the NFL's new rules about anything that you lead with the helmet, whether it's blocking, running, receiving, tackling, you get kicked out. So if he's a head butter, he could be one of those guys who could be an early exit in the first, second quarter. Even if he's your best guard, he's not very effective if he's sitting in a pair of gym shorts next to the coach in the third and fourth quarter.
Look at Will Hernandez, 5'1", 540 for a 348-pounder.
That's big man moving. That's big man moving right there.
Oh, yeah. So 37 on the bench. And check out even the 3-cone. 3-cone's doing better than Quentin Nelson, too.
Yeah, 3-cone's moving. And you can see right there in that 3-cone in the 20-yard shuttle as well, the abilities there of James Daniels. That ability to be able to be very athletic interior lineman. You can clearly see that with James Daniels. Reminds me a little bit of Kelsey in that.
That's a great comparison.
Daniels is not the same shorter kind of ability, but the knock on Kelsey is more athlete than pounder. I think that's the same thing I would say about Daniels here.
Yeah, and like Kelsey, Doug Peterson has been able to scheme around him because the knock on him for the while when he had the last couple seasons, Peterson was playing more of a power scheme, and they went more to the zone stuff and the sweeps along the perimeter where he could pull, and he had the best season of his career this past year. So not only credit to Jason Kelsey, but credit to Doug Peterson for being able to scheme around his offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's completely fair, Adrian. Talk about going to the right system there. I think a guy like James Daniels, he goes to a situation with a lot of zone-based team. How about the San Francisco 49ers in the early second? That would be a great situation for them. Oh, wait, never mind. They don't have that second-round pick because they traded that for their star quarterback. But that would be a great situation there going to Shanahan's offense, a lot of zone, lateral movement. I think that would be a really nice fit for him, but probably going to be gone. Where do I have him going? 20 to 40. Yeah, I think that's probably a fair range for him.
All right. So by the time I upload this, it's going to be tomorrow, so it's going to be Sunday. So stay tuned for later today. I'll say that. Later today, we're going to do our mock draft. So we got the 4 of us. We got Brendan. We got Mike Skulski, who's coming back from the dead. He's going to make an appearance with us for our NFL mock draft. And James, obviously you guys know, who does our previews with the Eagles. So 4 of us, I put names in a hat. I have all 32 teams. They have been drawn out. We're all going to make a pick for the Eagles at 32. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I am on the clock because I have the Cleveland Browns at number 1. And, by the way, you did draw the Ravens. So it wasn't by accident. I did it, and you got the Ravens.
I am curious to see how this thing falls because this is the best thing. Honestly, guys, like me and Adrian, we do these top 5 shows to give you an idea of, hey, in a perfect world, who do we like most?
Yeah.
But when you actually put 32 different teams in a row and you realize a lot of your needs are also the needs of teams who are 5-6 picks ahead of you, it really makes it interesting.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like McGlinchey is going to be my top tackle in this mock draft because that's what teams – that's the consensus. All the scouts say he's number one. So, well, if the scouts say he's number one, then most NFL teams are going to think he's number one as well.
Yep, spot on.
There you go. All right, that's Brennan Albert. I'm Adrian. Thank you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Take care.
Appreciate it.